All right, so all this spending that we're doing is going to have repercussions. And the immediate repercussions that we're going to see, for one, is that we're going to see this $2.3 trillion be added to our debt. All right. Once these official numbers pass and they're actually, put into the system, we're going to be really close to $30 trillion in debt. If you remember, when I gave the podcast, when I gave you that presentation where one of the senators was talking about that in September we were going to hit $30 trillion. The only reason we did not do it is because they did not pass the bill at that time. But when you fast forward 2 to 3 months later, now we're here, they passed it, and we're at 30 trillion now. All right, so the only question left is, how much longer can we go before we see the hyperinflation being reflected in the purchases that you make every day? It's going to work its way there. It's just not there yet. What some companies have been doing, just pay attention, is that they have actually decreased the amount of goods that's inside the bags, inside the boxes or whatever. They're keeping the boxes the same size and everything, but the product inside of it, that's what they're decreasing, right? Actually, the cereal companies got caught doing that. And a lot of people know, or actually everybody knows about how the chip companies are doing it. The snacks, the chips, it's all air and a little bit of chips. Well, that is going to decrease even more for the same price. They're gonna try to keep the product the same price as much as they can, with less product inside of it, so you don't pay attention, so you do not realize what's going on. But eventually, it's going to explode. The hyperinflation is going to get out of control, and then all that is going to be reflected on the things that you buy every single day. All right, so that's exactly where all of this, or this is exactly how it happened in Venezuela. But for right now, before I go that direction, another immediate thing that we're going to see is going to be taxes increase, because all this spending has to be paid off somehow, and the only way that they're going to do it is by increasing taxes. Mark my words, right? If Biden comes into office, he is going to increase tax, not just for people who are making $400,000 more. He's going to have to. He's going to be forced to increase it on everybody else. And in the next article, you're going to see why, right? Because this goes along with what I was talking about earlier about people fleeing the country. Here's the headline from Zero Hedge. New York must raise taxes regardless of whether it receives federal relief, Governor Cuomo says. The state is projected to bring in about $60 billion in personal income tax next year, which accounts for about half of its revenue. About half of the state's personal income tax comes from the highest 2% earners in the state. Republicans have stood in stark odds with Cuomo on the issue, while businesses continue to warn that higher taxes could prompt them to leave the state. Senate Minority Leader Robert Ort, a Republican from Niagara County, said, quote, New York is one of the highest tax states in the nation, and raising taxes will result in the continuation of the exodus from the state, end quote. Very important. Only 2% of the top earners in New York are paying for half of the state's income. Once the 2% gets the heck out of there, what's going to happen? Cuomo's going to have to raise the taxes on everybody else. All right, who's going to take the position, or who's going to take the place of the other 2% that just left? Who's going to become the top earners? Eventually, the top earner is going to level out to where everybody's making the same amount of money. That's exactly what could happen here in the United States, and it's going to happen. All right, people from Venezuela, the rich people and pretty much middle class and up, they got out of there as soon as they could. They got out of there super quick. Why? Because the rich people were trying to preserve their wealth, because, Maduro was just coming in and taking over companies and stuff. So at the first whisper of that, millionaires from Venezuela, they just got out very, very fast. The middle class people who were able to afford to actually get out and get a place somewhere else and, pretty much migrate legally, they did that and they left. The other people who were not able to, who did not have the money, they just fled illegally. All right. There's still people in Venezuela. Not everyone in Venezuela left. But of course, who are the people who stayed? Pretty much the people who couldn't afford to go anywhere else, even though they're starving to death right now. Some don't want to leave, some cannot leave. In the United States, we're going to be seeing the same thing. That's why it's important for us to pay attention to all of this, because if you're going to make plans to leave the United States, you have to make sure that everything is in place wherever it is that you want to go. The reason I say that is because the airlines are talking about that if you don't have the COVID vaccine and you don't have the COVID pass, you ain't flying anywhere. So if you're planning to be anywhere on the other side of the planet, you're not going to roll your way over there, all right? You're going to have to fly. And if you don't want to take the vaccine or you don't want to have a vaccine pass, if you don't get out of here before everything goes down and they actually clamp down to where they're actually requiring for you to have a vaccine, you're not going anywhere, and you're going to stay here in the United States, and you're going to have two options: either migrate north or migrate south. But this is the thing. Something that I've been telling you for a while now is that this is going to be a global event. That is the reason why on one of my videos, I titled it, "There's going to be a collapse, a money collapse so great that even the rich people cannot get away from it." Because it won't matter where you're trying to go. We're seeing in Europe lockdowns. They're having economic depression as well. They're having shortages of food. In other countries, they're seeing the locusts tear apart all the crops. They're seeing the weather, the flooding. In some parts it's drought. Where are you trying to go? It doesn't. At this point, it seems like it doesn't matter where you go. You're gonna experience something that is gonna be a potential crash and hit the fan scenario. So what do? Do you stay here or do you go somewhere else? Some people are thinking about migrating to Mexico, but my experience with Mexico, to me, is a big heck no. And nothing's gonna keep me from going over there. Or no, I think I said that wrong. Nothing is gonna force me to go over there. I would rather stay here and live in a Venezuela-like environment than going back to Mexico because of all the cartels, because of the poverty, because of the devaluation of the currency over there. Okay, it's really hard to pay for stuff over there. When I was living there for a whole year, people who did not speak English, they were only getting paid $300 a month. A month. And in some places, and that was, the good job. That was getting a good job. $300 a month. On a regular basis, it was less than $100 a month. So people who are trying to romanticize going to Mexico, it's because they've never been there. And if they go, it's because they're going over there with their dollars. Some people are getting pensions, so they're going over there. Yes, it's cheaper when you have dollars. But when you start to earn the currency of that country, it becomes really expensive and really hard to pay for things. So you have to consider that point. All right. So if you go to Canada, it's possible that you do, but they have restrictions. And actually, what's his name? The Prime Minister of Canada, Trudeau. He's 100% for the reset. And not only that, as I've shown you here in this podcast, the documents came out saying that they're training the Chinese. So if there's going to be an invasion in the United States, more than likely, Canada is going to stab us in the back, and we're going to have Chinese troops come from the north and come from the south. So you have to be careful there too. And if you go to Alaska, which, is still tied to the US dollar, but, you have Russia right next door. So really, where are you going to try to flee? That's where you're going to have a lot of planning. And you have to make sure that everything's in place right now. Otherwise, you're not going to go anywhere. So if your chances of getting out of this country, once, an economic collapse, the likes that have happened in Venezuela happens here, you better make sure that you have everything in place here for you to withstand an economic collapse.
The Man-Made Survival Show.